Hey, what's going on, guys? So a few weeks ago, I asked you all, I said in a future community response video, I wanted to know what you all thought about whether or not Onoki was wrong for creating the artificial humans and whether or not he was wrong for continuing the Akuta experimentation that was going on. And I said if you felt like Onoki was right, then defend him with all of your passion. If you felt like he was wrong, then don't hold back either. So with that being said, let's just kind of look at what you guys have to say about Onoki and whether or not he was right or wrong, and I'll save my response probably for another video once this arc actually wraps up. So with that being said, let's look at you guys' comments. So Light Uchiha said, dude is still alive. How? Dude survived Madara twice. That's a world record. You know what? You know what? That's actually a good point. Like this dude has like the most plot armor. I joke and say Kakashi had the most plot armor throughout the entire series, but I mean Onoki, he brushed with death a few times, man. Like even then, like when chapter 700 came out in 2014, like a lot of us were like, how the hell is this dude still alive? Why isn't he dead? He was already old as dirt. I mean, a funny point, man. Funny point. I'm gonna let that one slide, even though it didn't answer the question. Okay, so reviews by you. He is basically senile. He was blinded by his own false ambitions. Ooh, this is gonna be a good one. He is basically senile. He was blinded by his own false ambitions. He should be treated as a criminal since he basically broke the treaty between the nations since the leaf shinobi died. He is lucky Naruto's Hokage because his action alone during a time of peace could be grounds for war. That is a really good point. I am loving this. Considering this is Boruto, they will give the legendary fence sitter a slap on the wrist. Honestly, Onoki should really die at the end of this arc for it to be really making sense, since he certainly won't be imprisoned. The series overall has been so soft and it's given me doubts for the future, but I will remain hopeful. Wow, that is a really good point. That's a really good point, because I mean, by all accounts, like Onoki basically would have started a ninja war if this would have been any other Kage. Like, God forbid this had been Hiruzen Sarutobi. He was hands down the most hawkish out of all of the Hokage we've had. He would have taken that as grounds to start a war, especially given the fact that the Hidden Rock Village and the Hidden Leaf Village were not on good terms. Like that's a really good point. I love this comment, man. So El Guerrero says, I'm honestly upset with the creators of Boruto for literally destroying a great character. That's debatable, man. That's debatable. I wasn't a big fan of Onoki. I got what Kishimoto was trying to do in Naruto Shippuden by having him, be the guy who said like the Akatsuki are good for being used for missions you can't trace back to the ninja villages, to giving into hope for Naruto. I got what he was doing there. I just don't think he was a good character, but let's keep seeing what you got to say. Onoki played such a pivotal role in the last war, not only as a combatant, but also moral support. That's true. Instead of letting the old man be great and die as a legend, they gonna butcher his character by pretty much making him a whole hypocrite dickhead in Boruto. That's what I mean. I had a feeling you're gonna go there. I don't think that that's out of character for Onoki. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I said, like you made a really good point. You're like, hey, yeah, he was great moral support in the war. That's true. But Onoki doing stuff behind the backs of the villages and doing stuff he felt like was right, that wasn't something out of character. Again, like he pretty much owned up to it in the 5 Kage Summit, which like if you go by the manga, like that should be around volume 47, 48, 49 of the Naruto manga. Like, yeah, so like when you look at Onoki's character, the guy basically said in the 5 Kage Summit that he had used the Akatsuki in the past and that they're a very useful tool for the great nations to be able to use and not have different missions and everything kind of track back to the hidden villages. And he's part of that old era. That's something you got to look at. He's part of that old era. And that's why you have ninja like the Raikage, who even though they were, and I'm talking about A, I'm not talking about Dari, I'm talking about A, who even during a time of peace, A had created a chakra cannon, and even though the five great nations had agreed to demilitarize and work towards lowering their shinobi forces and experiments and everything, he was still creating chakra cannons and all this other stuff. I mean, that's just part of that old era. So I mean, that way of thinking, that's not out of character for Onoki. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think if anything, they took it right back to how we were first introduced to him in the Naruto manga. I mean, I like that. I like that, but I get what you're trying to say, though. I mean, is that a bit of a regression on his part? Absolutely, but it's also kind of done in a good way. I mean, it's not a bad retcon. I mean, he's looking towards taking that type of stance because of what happened with his grandson and wanting to protect the next generation. I get it, but I mean, that's a fair point. So right here, CJ Johnson says, Onoki represents the old, war-pressed shinobi generation. The world won't move on peacefully until that old generation dies off. That's true. That's actually what I was getting at just now. I mean, he's part of that old generation, man. He's part of that old way of thinking. I mean, until it's kind of like if you look at what's going on in politics now, like, you know, and I don't want to get all political. I'm just going to keep this short and sweet. You know, you don't have a lot of millennials in Congress and in the Senate making laws that affects our generation, and for those of you younger than me, the Gen Z generation. You have all these old dusty baby boomers who have no idea what it's like to put up with life in our era. You know, we're the most educated group out of any other generation that's come, and yet we're the most debt riddled. And then they say, well, how come you guys aren't buying houses and starting families? Because we got screwed based on the policies that were made. And so until the older generation gets out and the new generation fully takes over, just like what's going on in the Boruto era, where all of the leadership for the most part is from Naruto's generation, and they're embracing the change that is coming. But when you still have people like Onoki who are still in position to where they can affect things in the way that they choose, until they're out of the picture and Onoki's generation dies off, there's always going to be that silver lining there. And that includes people like Orochimaru, because Orochimaru's experimentations is the whole basis for this arc. You know, you're not gonna see somebody in Naruto's generation doing something like that. So, I mean, that's a fair point. I like what CJ Johnson said. So Lil Luke 25 says, Onoki made the artificial humans to fight enemies as strong or stronger than Kage. All we've seen them do is stomp fodder ninja. They won't even be able to take out Tenten, let alone anyone stronger than Naruto. The artificial humans are just bad. Poorly thought out plans simply from an emotional standpoint, not a logical one. If Onoki wants the future generation to be safe, make them stronger so they can protect themselves. Having a nation full of weaklings will only make you a target. That's good. You kind of attacked it on both sides of the fence there, and I like that, man. I like that. You know, I like giving both sides of the argument a bit of a wiggle room, man. I like that, man. That's a mature answer, and I like what you said about the fact that, you know, even somebody like Tenten will probably take him out. I mean, I know Tenten fans probably like the disrespect. Can't believe this dude. I mean, Tenten. I mean, let's not forget. I mean, Tamari took her out off panel in the manga. You know, like the anime had to add some scenes in order to make Tenten look at least somewhat formidable, because she was on such a team filled with badasses with Neji and Rock Lee, and you know, she just gets taken off panel in the manga. They had to do something to make it look somewhat respectable. So I mean, I get it, man. I get it. But you know, I also like what you said about if Onoki really wants the future generation to be safe, he needs to make them stronger so they can protect themselves, you know? And the reason why I like that is like the whole purpose of the old generation, the whole purpose is you're supposed to pass down your knowledge and experience to the next gen, and they're supposed to surpass you. You know, I like what you see there. So, Butterpant Smallsworth said, I think Onoki looks like one of the seven dwarfs. So I think he did clone it if he's Snow White's resurrection. Oh man, let me go back to that. I forgot all about this one, man. I forgot all about this comment. So he said, I think Onoki looks like one of the seven dwarfs. So I think if he did clone, it would be Snow White's resurrection. This dude right here. Damn, I like that. So Chocolate Hokage said, okay, I feel like his intentions were 100% valid and it was all good. I just don't like the by any means necessary outlook he started to have on the whole thing. Not gonna lie, I was shocked when he said no to sacrificing a few shinobi for the sake of the future. And you know what? That's a good point. And I think what that is, and I think that's something that gets missed, is the fact that you saw Onoki wavering. You saw him wavering throughout this arc. You saw his resolve go up and down, back and forth, and then once he got to that point of no return, you know, typically when it gets to that point, you know, a character can't be redeemed, and yet you saw the redeeming elements where he was telling Ku, like, nah, you're not taking the hearts of Ninja. And you see Ku like, oh, master, you know, you're not of your own mind state and everything. I mean, I like what they did there, because you see the internal conflict going on with Onoki when he's realized he's gone too far and his character's looking for redemption, and yet there isn't truly redemption there for him to gain. You know, I like what they did on that part. So, I mean, that was a beautiful comment. I like that. So, Zamboni Dude said, sorry if I said your name wrong, but he said, I just came to say Leaf Jonin were killed by the Akutas, but Boruto and our favorite Ganins clashed with them, and the higher up Akutas that were also more powerful. The entire Stone Village was taken overnight, including the Tsuchikage, who's been in prison for days. Love it or hate it, the old man was right. If you're not a main character, you're trash and need to be protected, because you'll get yourself killed if the time ever calls for it. Not saying his methods were the best way to go about it, but this would have not been possible in the last generation before the 4th Great Ninja War. I hope he dies trying to save Boruto. He doesn't necessarily deserve to die, but he can't walk away from the atrocities without some punishment, and prison is not justified for such an old man. That is a good point. That's a good point. I mean, Onoki, and I'm one episode behind on the anime, so I don't know what happened this last week as of this recording. So, I mean, I'm one episode behind, but I will say, you know, it does look like that's what's happening, because, you know, when the kid that Boruto was helping find the heart finds Onoki, and all the Akatas have been taken out. You know, you get to that point where you just look at it and Onoki's like, I got one final thing I need to do. So, I mean, I think a sacrifice is coming. By the time you guys see this, and I would have already been caught up on the anime, but I mean, I think a sacrifice is coming. And I do think that, you know, you make a good point that, you know, if this had been any other generation, you know, things would have turned out differently. And I do think it comes back to like the question too, you know, it's just like now, like if an old man gets convicted of being a serial killer, is it really right to put this dude in prison and he's only gonna die a few days later or a few weeks, months? Like, he's not gonna serve out a full sentence. I mean, I get it, you know, at some point, you know, you can look at that as being cruel and unusual punishments. I mean, I like what you're saying here. So let's look at what Arbington said. Onoki's heart was in two places at once. He's the fence sitter. He wants peace and commits acts of war, wants to save lives and create slaves meant only to die. Only at the last moment is he gonna choose a side in all this. Until then, he's somewhere between, like always. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That's something I had written down on my notes, man, about the whole thing with him being the fence center. I mean, he's literally on the fence, or figuratively on the fence, doing the right thing and yet going about it the wrong way. It's almost like a tragic hero where they have good intentions and yet they always make the wrong choices, but their heart's in the right place. In a way, you could call him an anti-hero. I mean, that's beautiful, and that's what that old generation in Naruto represents, which is they have the right intentions, protect the village, protect the peace at hand, and yet they make the decisions that ultimately undermine it. That's where the next generation is supposed to come up and clean up that mess and actually provide progress. I like that. That's really good. I like that. I like that comment, man. I like that a lot. So Upset Forever said, hell yes, he's wrong. You gotta find a better way to train the youth. Do not create fake ones that'll overthrow the village. Old head dropped the ball. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. Uh, okay. So I guess I gotta say this now. All right. So Grant Smith said, "I really like reviews by you. Comment on this topic." Okay. So, like I responded to him, I said after the anime finishes the novel adaptations, I'll start reviewing the anime. I got a really bad feeling the novel adaptations are going to be done just as bad as the ones from Shippuden, inaccurate to the source material. So that's why. So, I mean, just, stay put. I'll be reviewing the anime eventually. I'm just not going to do it when they do the novels because I don't want to do a full video ranting. That's just all it is, I don't want to come off as somebody that's like, you hate Boruto, I don't like you. You don't like the series. Yeah, I don't want to trigger people over that. So let's see. So Danny D Legend, and I gotta say this now, man. Gotta give him a shout out because I mean he's been a long time sub. He's helped me out with thumbnails on the other channel where I do the One Piece content. Like, mad love for Danny D Legend. So let's see what my dude got to say. He said, I think he was wrong creating weapons to use in battle. Is it okay? Well, excuse me. I think he was wrong creating weapons to use in battle is okay. But to give them a soul and emotions along with free will and treat them like they have none is wrong. Plus, he's been around long enough to know the old-fashioned way of training has created many great shinobi. All he had to do was use his wisdom and experience to find a way that suits the current generation, but instead he goes senile. That's a good point. And I think that goes back to the whole thing of this whole arc. The huge, and I'm gonna do a whole video on this, the whole underlying tone that they're trying to get to you guys to see, which is, what does it mean to have free will? Is there really choice? When does life really begin? And they're hitting all of this stuff. They're hitting all of this, like what makes up the soul. That's the main crux of this arc. Even with the Ryuchi Cave side stuff, like that's one of the things they've been kind of hammering in. And I do think that Onoki was needed for that. Onoki was needed to kind of hammer home that point. So from a craft perspective, I can forgive what they're doing. But like what you're saying with the character, that's absolutely true. That's absolutely true. Giving these weapons free will and a heart to where or when I say heart, I don't mean like a physically beating heart. Not like the one that Ku got at the end of the episode where I'm currently at. But the fact that the fact that they long and they have their own emotions and desires, wants and needs, you're essentially sending children out to die. And you're doing it in order to protect your village. And it's like, what makes their lives more inexpendable than the lives of people they're supposed to protect? So I mean, I think Danny makes a good point there, and I also think that he makes a good point with Onoki should have been trying to teach the next generation. Because if you just go and you look at like the Hearthstone episodes, he taught Boruto a lot in that. Like, I know like that probably pissed people off, like, oh my god, there was no action in this episode, the pacing's so slow. But it's the lessons he was teaching Boruto about perseverance, which Boruto still hasn't fully learned, and teaching Boruto that there are other things besides ninjutsu that make somebody a ninja. And so I do like that. I do like that element of what they did there. I do like that. So let's see. XP said Onoki is only Onoki is the only one using his noodle. Sasuke and Naruto are two people and they can't be everyone. They will also die one day. Someone has to take their place since enemies are essential deities. I'm not justifying everything he's done to them, but I can definitely understand the motive. That's a good point. It's amazing how people can't understand him, but give Naruto, my favorite character in the series, a free pass when he should have killed Sasuke 10 times over. Woo! Dang. That's like a mic drop right there. That's a mic drop. I mean, because I'm going to keep it real with you guys. I'm going to say something unpopular. I know I did like the what if Sasuke killed Naruto video, but I mean, I personally feel like Sasuke was too far gone. I feel like he was too far gone. Like, I get it, it's a shonen. They're not going to have Naruto make a tough decision in killing Sasuke. That's just not how shonens work. Maybe this is seinen or something, maybe, but not a shonen. But you can make a very strong argument that Sasuke should have been executed. He should have been executed. You know, a couple of good rights that he did in the war does not make up for everything he did wrong. Does not make up for that. He was a rogue ninja. That's a death sentence. He joined the Akatsuki. He started out the war on the side of the Akatsuki, who were going against the five great nations. He conspired to commit treason by committing murder of all the five kage. He didn't kill them, but he planned to kill them. And even when he fought alongside them, it was for his own selfish motives. I mean, that's a good point. People do give Naruto a pass for that. Now, the other thing is when you say Onoki is using his noodle. That's true, because Naruto and Sasuke, they can speed blitz and be in several countries in the matter of a few minutes. I mean, we saw Naruto and Sasuke run across 3 countries in only a few pages in the manga when they went from the site of the infinite Tsukiyomi back to the land of fire to have their battle at the valley at the end. So, I mean, that's true. You know, they can speed blitz and get everywhere, but they can't be everywhere all at once. And you are going to have enemies. But, I mean, that kind of goes back to, where do you fall? Do you feel like the next generation needs to be trained up, or do you think that there's no hope for the next generation? And that also brings into the debate of the scientific ninja tools. You know, because some people would say the scientific ninja tools are meant to make up for the lack of power that the next generation has. I mean, I think the Boruto anime is doing a good job of making us question things that we wouldn't have necessarily questioned before. I mean, that's a good comment. I like that. So, Christian I've been on says Orochimaru, he gets away with this with ish like this while I'm painted out the bad guy. I mean, that's a fair point. That's a fair point. There's nothing to say to that. I mean, because they're cut from the same cloth. Jalen Hanshaw said, it's Madara's fault for dropping 2 meteors on his head. I like that. I like that, man. I like that. I like that, man. Madara messed him up, man. I'll never forget where I was when I read that chapter, man. Like, I was on campus. I couldn't read the chapter when it came out earlier that morning. The site that I went to read the Naruto manga chapters. It's like 2011. The site that I went to read the chapters was down. There was just so much traffic, so I knew that, you know, something was going on. So I had my tablet and I'm sitting in the UC. That's the university center at the college I went to. And I'm sitting in the UC and I got the tablet and I finally get hooked up to the Wi-Fi. I'm reading the chapter, and when Madara just drops the second meteor, dude, I geeked out. I geeked out right there at the table I'm at, man. Everybody's looking at, what the hell is he looking at? Like, oh man, that was yeah, man. I like that. That's trip down memory lane right there. Joel Swiley says, sorry if I butcher your name, man. I think he was like Danzo, which makes sense given they came from the same era. Yeah. To know of the possibility of a whole shinobi war is enough incentive for either vets to want to take action. With the younger generation not even knowing their own capabilities, it pressures them in order to protect the village, to do what's necessary. So yeah, no, I mean, that's a good point. I mean, I think what you're essentially saying is, a few words are off here, but I think essentially what you're saying is that because of the generation they're from, and because there's too many question marks around the next generation, you know, they just feel a need to step up and do what's best for the ninja world and what they see to be fit. And I think that also goes back to a point I made earlier about how with the old generation not wanting to give up power. All right, so Texas H53, okay, Texas Head, I see what you did there. Okay, so creating the artificial humans is just begging for a war in the future. Think about it. Even one of the Fabrications, I forgot his name, was saying that we were superior to humans, that they were faster, stronger, etc., and that humans are weak. Now imagine a nation's worth of Fabrications just like him. That's a good point. Sooner or later, they're just gonna say, nah, F it. Why do we have to die for you weaklings? We'll just take over this ish. And obviously, because I can't really curse on YouTube, that's why I can't say it exactly as it. As we learn, even though they are Fabrications, they are beings with human wills. It's in humanity's nature to want to survive and not die. Ooh, that's a good ass point. So yeah, it was wrong because Fabrications is just a ticking bomb to have an all-out war. I'm calling it now. There's gonna be a 5th grade ninja war. I agree with you, but I don't think it's gonna be Fabrications. I think the Boruto anime has, I'll talk about this in a future video, but the Boruto anime has done a really good job of kind of hinting that things aren't exactly what they seem to be with the peace that exists in the 5 great nations. You know, this peace is very fickle. And, you know, even going as far back as the Hidden Mist field trip arc, which everybody hates for the most part. Even then, like, you know, May was saying, like, if the feudal lord says we got to go to war, our nations will be back at war with each other. So this peace is very fickle. And in the Shikamaru novel, you know, we see just how fickle this piece is. You have a moment where Sasuke and Shikamaru, 2 characters I never thought would share the same screen and bond together like this, essentially talk about how it's their job to do the things in the darkness that Naruto can't do in order to hold up this peace. I mean, that's a good point. That's a good point. So let's look. Those mass things, the Akuta, I think, are going to be like the White Zetsu, and some fabrication or group of fabrications, maybe Kara, is going to be the new Kabuto, Obito, and Madara. I like where you're going with this. I mean, it remains to be seen whether or not they take that route. But I mean, even then, I think like when you go back and you look at what Kage did with the Infinite Tsukiyomi, I mean, she was turning people into White Zetsus, and she was building an army, but she was forcibly doing it. I mean, so Kishimoto, before he ended the Naruto manga, was playing with this idea. So I mean, this is good. This is good. So I'm gonna do a few more of these because this video is getting a little too lengthy. So I'm gonna do a few more of these, and then, you know, obviously, you know, I'm gonna continue to read the comments, but, you know, for the sake of this video, you know, I'm gonna probably do about 6 or 7 more. So let's see. Ash Jones, he said his heart was in the right place, but his head wasn't. He had zero faith in young shinobis, yet Kakashi flat out stated that Boruto was at Chunin level. Many Leaf and Stone shinobi were killed by his creations, and he showed no remorse. He must be dealt with. I mean, that's fair. I mean, that kind of goes back to it, you know. What do you do with the next generation when you have prodigies like Boruto who haven't even reached their full potential because they don't have direction? Like, they got the skill, but the direction. And I think that that's where Naruto's generation is at fault here, because the older generation did a better job of grooming Naruto's generation, and yet Naruto's generation has dropped the ball in grooming the next gen. They've taught them, you know, the skills, but they haven't groomed them mentally. You know, I think that's why somebody like Kakashi kind of stepped in and was like, yeah, you're clearly Chunin level, but you don't deserve to be a ninja. I mean, there are some points in that, so I like that. And just how you said Onoki needs to be dealt with, I mean, Leaf Shinobi did die. Stone Ninja did die. You know, his fabrications, you know, Ku and Seki, they essentially pulled off a coup d'etat. Like what you saw in that episode where they had everybody rounded up and everything. If you read the second Itachi light novel, so that would be the Itachi Midnight novel, that's essentially what the Uchiha had planned. That's essentially what they had planned. There's a few changes, but that's essentially how the Uchiha coup d'etat was gonna go. So I mean, that's a good point. So let's see what Posh Shinobi says. He said, I believe that Onoki had good intentions on what he was doing, but I think he didn't expect for the Akuta to completely disobey him and turn on him like they did. That's true. That's true. I mean, that's a really fair point. I mean, you know what they say, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. I mean, that's a fair point. So Young Bakugo, oh, I like that name, man. And you know, that's not one of my favorite characters from My Hero Academia. You know, like I started reading, just side note, you know, I started reading Boku no Hero Academia like in 2015. So not long after it started, and I dropped it because, you know, Naruto had just ended, and I was just like, man, you know, I can't really get behind a series that has all these homages to Naruto and just different small things. I wasn't ready for it. I'll say it. I'm a huge Naruto fanboy. And so I dropped the series. I've been getting back into My Hero Academia, and I'm thinking about either doing some of that stuff on my channel or starting a separate channel and just doing My Hero. It's just I wasn't sure what the what the support on that would be like, but I might do it anyway. So let's look what you guys say on Bakugo. Instead of creating the Akuta to replace Shinobi, he should have created them with the help to train Shinobi. Makes much more sense. That's a fair point. That's a fair point. That's a really fair point. I like that. I like that right there. I mean, they'd have been good training partners, but I mean, they're so, what's the right way to put this? They're so unstable. They're so unstable. I mean, that's dangerous, but I get what you're saying though. So overall, I mean, I like reading you guys' comments, man. It looks like a lot of you guys say he had the right intentions, but he went about it the wrong way. And a lot of you guys feel as if Onoki should be punished. So this is gonna be interesting to see where the redemption for his character goes, because this arc is about to end. So I mean, you know, he can't get a slap on the wrist. It's gonna be very interesting to see how they kind of handle this. But that's it for this community response. I'm gonna do a few more community responses, 'cause I gotta catch up on a few of them. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, share. Thank you so much for watching. Have an awesome day, guys.